Speaker, sir, trusting every citizen, I repeat, trusting every citizen, the aspirational youth, the hard-working women, the risk-taking entrepreneur, the ever-hopeful and untiring farmer, or the wise and old senior citizens. Many among them are taxpayers. Others may not be taxpayers now. Our Prime Minister has laid before us ease of living as a goal to be achieved on behalf of all citizens. An important aspect of both ease of living and ease of doing business is fairness, efficiency of tax administration. We wish to enshrine, this is important, Honourable Speaker. This is important, sir. Money being allocated to various programs is finance of this country. This is very important, sir. Businesses should have the confidence that things are being fair and the efficiency of the tax administration. We wish to enshrine in the statutes a taxpayer charter. Through this budget, a taxpayer's charter is getting institutionalized into the statutes. It's going to be enshrined as a part of our laws. That's building trust. A taxpayer's statutes will be a part of our, a taxpayer's charter will be a part of our statutes. Our government would like to reassure taxpayers that we remain committed to taking measures so that our citizens are free from harassment of any kind. We mean it, and we are willing to put it in the law. Tax harassment cannot be tolerated when we are talking about citizens and wealth collectors. There has been a debate about building into statutes criminal liability for acts that are civil in nature. This is important, sir. There has been a debate about building into statutes criminal liability for acts that are civil in nature. Hence, for Companies Act, certain amendments are proposed to be made that will correct this. Similarly, other laws would also be examined where such provisions exist, and attempts would be made to correct them also. The government intends to introduce major reforms in recruitment to non-gazetted posts in governments and public sector banks. At present, candidates have to appear for multiple examinations conducted by multiple agencies at different points of time for similar posts. This places enormous burden on time, effort, and cost for young people. To mitigate the hardship so faced, it is proposed to set up a national recruitment agency as an independent, professional, specialist organization for conduct of computer-based online common eligibility test for recruitment to non-gazetted posts. A test center in every district, particularly in the aspirational districts, would be set up. For the speedy disposal of commercial and other disputes, government has constituted various tribunals and specialized bodies. It is proposed to evolve a robust mechanism for appointment, including direct recruitment to these bodies to attract best talents and professional experts. A stable and predictable business environment is a key objective of this government. There is also a strong argument for ensuring that contracts are honoured. India has a sound framework related to Contracts Act. We shall deliberate upon strengthening it. There is a growing need, sir, for Indian statistical system to meet the challenges of real-time monitoring of our increasingly complex economy. Data must have strong credibility. The proposed new national policy on official statistics would use latest technology, including artificial intelligence. It would lay down a roadmap towards modernized data collection, integrated information portal, and a timely dissemination of information thus collected. I'm happy to inform that India will host G20 presidency in the year 2022. That is the year of 75th anniversary of independence of the Indian nation. During this presidency, India would be able to drive considerably the global economic and development agenda. For this historic occasion, I allocate a sum of 100 crore to begin the preparations. 100 crore rupees. Sir, Northeastern region has a very high priority in government's developmental agenda. Government is ensuring smooth access to financial assistance from multilateral and bilateral funding agencies to help introduce innovative and global best practices. Central government has effectively used an online portal to reduce gestation period of online. This has improved the flow of funds to the Northeast region. The government is fully committed to supporting the all-round development of the newly formed Union Territories of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union Territory of Ladakh. Accordingly, an amount of 30,757 crore has been provided for the financial year 2020-21. An amount of 5,958 crore has been provided for the Union Territory of Ladakh. So that was one hand, which is governance. Now I come to the other, which is the financial sector. If governance was described as one of the pair of the hands holding the bouquet consisting of aspirational India, economic development and caring India, the other is the financial sector. A clean, reliable, robust financial sector is critical to the economy. A clean, reliable and robust financial sector is critical to the economy. In our efforts to achieve the US $5 trillion economy, the financial architecture should evolve. The financial architecture should keep evolving and move from strength to strength. We had earlier approved consolidation of 10 banks into 4. In the last few years, the Government of India has infused about 3,50,000 crores by way of capital into public sector banks for both regulatory and growth purposes. Governance reforms would be carried out in these banks so that they become more competitive. A few among them will be encouraged to approach capital market to raise additional capital. So I wish to inform this august House that robust mechanism is in place to monitor the health of all scheduled commercial banks and that depositors' money is absolutely safe. I wish to underline this point, sir, that this August House should know that robust mechanism is in place to monitor the health of all scheduled commercial banks and that depositors' money is absolutely safe. Further, the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation has been permitted to increase deposit insurance coverage for a depositor, which is now standing at 1 lakh of rupees to 5 lakh per depositor. Sir, the insurance cover for a depositor is at 1 lakh now. Now we are raising it to 5 lakh for each depositor. Sir, to strengthen the cooperative banks, amendments to the Banking Regulation Act are proposed for increasing professionalism, enabling access to capital, and improving governance and oversight for sound banking through the RBI. The limit for NBFCs to be eligible for debt recovery under the Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interests under the SARFAESI Act 2002 is proposed to be reduced from 500 crores to asset size 100 crores only, or loan size from existing 1 crore to 50 lakhs. Therefore, we feel many of the small NBFCs which can come for debt recovery would be far easily done for smaller companies. In the last few years, the government has taken concrete steps to bring our banking system to be robust. However, there is a need for greater private capital. Accordingly, it is proposed to sell the balance holding of Government of India's IDBI Bank to private, retail and institutional investors through the stock exchange. There is a need, sir, to take further steps to bring in transparency and greater professionalism in public sector banks. The government will take appropriate measures towards this end. Sir, to help easy mobility while in jobs, we wish to infuse into the universal pension coverage with auto-enrollment. Also, we wish to place such mechanisms which can enable interoperability and provide safeguards for the accumulated corpus. Regulating role of PFRDAI, which is the pension regulatory body, requires strengthening. Necessary amendments would be carried out in Pension Fund Regulatory Development Authority of India Act that will also facilitate separation of NPS trust for government employees from the PFRDAI. This would also enable establishment of a pension trust by the employees other than from the government. I am confident that this will motivate citizens to plan for their old age. So this section, which I will now speak, will relate to the MSMEs. MSMEs are vital to keep the wheels of our economy moving. They also create jobs, innovate, and also risk takers, and they are risk takers. Several measures for the MSMEs have been taken in the past few years. There are more steps proposed in this budget also. I propose to make necessary amendments to the Factor Regulation Act 2011. This will enable NBFCs to extend invoice financing to the MSMEs through TREDS, thereby enhancing the economic and financial sustainability. Working capital credit remains a major issue for the MSMEs. It is proposed to introduce a scheme to provide subordinate debt for entrepreneurs of MSMEs. This subordinate debt to be provided by banks would count as quasi-equity and would be fully guaranteed through the Credit Guarantee Trust for medium and small entrepreneurs. The corpus of the CGT MSE would accordingly be augmented by the government. More than 5 lakh MSMEs have benefited from restructuring of debt permitted by RBI in the last year. The restructuring window was to end on 31st March 2020. Government has asked RBI to consider extending this window till 31st March 2021, one more year, so that whoever wants, they can go and approach. An app-based invoice financing loans product will be launched. This will obviate the problem of delayed payments and consequential cash flow mismatches for the MSME. Many mid-sized companies are successful domestically, but not in export markets. For selected sectors such as pharmaceuticals, auto components and others, we propose to extend hand-holding support for technology upgradations, R&D, business strategy planning, and so on. A scheme of 1,000 crore rupees will be anchored in the Exim Bank together with the SIDBI. Both these institutions would contribute 50 crores each. This 100 crore would be achieved towards equity and technical assistance. Debt funding of 900 crores from banks would be made available. Sir, financial markets. I would like to give a few of the major steps and initiatives being taken by the government for the financial markets. Last year in my budget speech, sir, I had mentioned about deepening the bond markets. To achieve the aspirational growth rate, we would require flow of capital in our financial system. A lot of work has been done on this in consultation with the RBI. Honourable Speaker, sir, I am pleased to inform this House of the developments. Certain specified categories of government securities would be open fully for non-resident investors, apart from being available to domestic investors also. The limit for FPI in corporate bonds, currently at 9% of outstanding stocks, will be increased to 15% of the outstanding stock of corporate bonds. To improve investors' confidence and to expand the scope of credit default swaps, we propose to formulate a legislation to be placed soon before this House for laying down a mechanism for netting of financial contracts. The debt-based exchange-traded fund, the ETF, recently floated by the government was a big success. Government proposes to expand this by floating a new debt ETF consisting primarily of government securities. This will give retail investors access to government securities as much as giving an attractive investment for pension funds and long-term investors. So to address the liquidity constraints of the NBFCs and the HFCs, this was very much talked about between July and December last year, sir, 2019. Liquidity constraints was very frequently mentioned to us. So to address liquidity constraints of the NBFCs and the housing finance corporations, post the Union Budget 2019-20, the government formulated a partial credit guarantee scheme for the NBFCs. To further the support of providing liquidity, a mechanism would be devised. Government will offer support by guaranteeing securities that are so floated. Infrastructure financing. Government's commitment for investment in infrastructure was reiterated when 103 lakh crore national infrastructure pipeline products were announced. I would also like to inform that about 22,000 crores of rupees has already been provided as support for infrastructure pipeline. On December 31st, if honourable members would recall, a national pipeline consisting of more than 6,500 projects were announced. 22,000 crore has already been provided as support to infrastructure pipeline. This would cater for equity support to infrastructure finance companies such as the IIFCL and a subsidiary which is of NIIF. So two institutions, IIFCL and the subsidiary of NIIF, take it. They would leverage it as permissible to create financing pipeline of more than 1 lakh crores. This would create a major source of long-term debt financing for infrastructure projects and fulfill a long-awaited requirement. So, the IFSC, GIFT City, has the potential to become a center of international finance as well as a center for high-end data processing. GIFT IFSC has an approved free trade zone for housing vaults. It already has 19 insurance entities, 40 banking entities. It has also provided for setting up of precious metals, testing laboratories for them, and refining facilities also. With the approval of the regulator, GIFT City would now set up an international bullion exchange in GIFT City IFSC as an additional option for trade by global market participants. This will enable India to enhance its position worldwide, create jobs in India, and will lead to better price discovery of gold. Sir, in the recent years, there has been a surge in trading volumes of Indian rupee in the offshore financial centers. The government and the RBI has taken various measures to permit rupee derivatives to be traded in the International Financial Services Center at GIFT City, Gujarat. So just a very quick word on disinvestment. Listing of companies on companies' stock exchanges brings discipline, and it disciplines the company and provides access to financial markets and unlocks its value. It also gives opportunity for retail investors to participate in the wealth so created. The government now proposes to sell a part of its holding in the LIC by way of initial public offer. Initial public offer. Sir, fiscal management. The 15th Finance Commission. The 15th Finance Commission has given its first report pertaining to financial year 2020-2021. In the spirit of cooperative federalism, I am pleased to announce that we have in substantial measure accepted the recommendations of the Commission. The Commission would submit its final report to the President during the latter part of the year for 5 years beginning 2021-22. It is decided to transfer to the GST Compensation Fund balances due out of the collection of the years 2016-17 and 17-18 in 2 installments. Hereinafter, transfers to the fund would be limited only to the collection by way of GST compensation cess. A fundamental overhaul of centrally sponsored schemes and central sector schemes is necessary so that we can align them with emerging social and economic needs of tomorrow and to ensure that scarce public resources are spent optimally. Recently, there has been a debate over transparency and credibility of the projected fiscal numbers. Let me assure the House that the procedure adopted is compliant with the FRBM Act. This is also consistent with the practices hitherto followed. However, for greater clarity, I have enumerated those central government debt that are not part of the market borrowing and are used to fund the expenditure at the annex. I'd like to repeat this line, sir. I'd like to repeat this line, sir. For greater clarity, I have enumerated those central government debts that are not part of market borrowing and are used to fund the expenditure at the annex. Servicing of interest and repayment of these debts, as hitherto done, are done out of Consolidated Fund of India. So now I come to some numbers. Revised estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2019-20 are at a level of 26.99 lakh crores and the receipts are estimated at 19.32 lakh crores. We have estimated nominal growth of GDP for the year 2020-21 on the basis of trends available at 10%. Accordingly, we have estimated, sir, let me finish, sir. So we have estimated the nominal growth. We have estimated the nominal growth of GDP for year 2020-21 on the basis of trends available at 10%. Accordingly, receipts for the year 2020-21 are estimated at 22.46 lakh crores. And keeping in mind commitment of the government towards various schemes and the need for improvement of the quality of life, level of expenditure has been kept at 30.42 lakh crores. Sir, during the year, government has unfailingly worked towards keeping up capital expenditure. Actually, there is substantial enhancement. All the flagship schemes of the government have been fully provided for. Details may be seen in the annexes to the printed copy of my speech. Every budget must appropriately address the issue of fiscal deficit. Every budget must appropriately address the issue of fiscal deficit. Recently, government has undertaken very significant tax reforms for boosting investment. However, expected tax buoyancy will take time. We estimate a fiscal deficit of 3.8% in RE 2019-20 and 3.5% for BE 2020-2021. This estimation is consistent with the government's abiding commitment to macroeconomic stability, and it comprises of A, 3.3 for year 2019-20 and 3 for the 2020-2021 budget estimate, and B, Section 4.2 of the FRBM Act, which provides for a trigger mechanism for a deviation from the estimated fiscal deficit on account of structural reforms in the economy with unanticipated fiscal implications. Therefore, I have taken a deviation of 0.5% consistent with the Section 4.3 of the FRBM Act, both for RE 2019-20 and BE 2020-21. Accordingly, the return path is being laid before the Parliament as a part of the medium-term fiscal policy cum strategy statement. This fiscal path commits us to the path of fiscal consolidation without compromising the needs of investment out of public funds. Accordingly, net market borrowings for the year 2019-20 would be 4.99 lakh crore, and for the year 2020-21 it would be 5.36 lakh crores. A good part, this is very important, sir, a good part of the borrowings of the financial year 2020-21 would go towards capital expenditure of the government that has been scaled up by more than 21%. As I had previously mentioned, another about 22,000 crores have already been allocated for equity to fund certain specified infrastructure finance companies who would leverage it manifold and provide much needed long-term finance for infrastructure sector. That should spur the growth impulses in the economy. So I would now move to part B of my speech. Thanks. Direct tax. Thanks. No, thanks. Sir, part B of my speech starts with direct tax, sir. Honorable Speaker, sir, our government has spearheaded radical fiscal measures to ensure that Indian economy continues to tread the path of high growth. There are times when countries are competing with each other like never before to become the most attractive destination for doing business. Therefore, to make sure that India stays globally competitive and a favored destination for investment, we took a bold historic decision of reducing the corporate tax rate for new companies in the manufacturing sector to an unprecedented level of 15%. Similarly, for the existing companies, the rate has also been brought down to 22%, which is the lowest in the world now. This will enable companies to expand their businesses and make fresh investments in the coming future. Though we will have loss of substantial revenue due to these measures in the short run, I'm certain that our economy will reap huge returns on this score in due course. So one quick verse from Raghuvamsa, written by Kalidasa. Prajanam eva bhutyartham sattabhyo balim agrahit. Prajanam eva bhutyartham sattabhyo balim agrahit. Sahasra gunam utsrashtam adatte hi rasam ravihi. Surya, the sun, collects vapor from little drops of water. He collects only from little drops of water. So does the king. They give back copiously. They collect these from the people only for their well-being. So the collection of taxes or the vapor from the water drops are only from small trickles, but they all go back to the people manifold. So the purpose of taxation and also the way in which it is done has been voiced even then. And this in Raghuvamsa refers to the Purvaja or the elders belonging to Ikshvaku dynasty, father of Ayodhyapati Rama, Dileepa, grandfather. It refers to Dileepa, the king. So in continuation of the reform measures already taken so far, the tax proposals in this budget will introduce further reforms to stimulate growth, simplify tax structure, bring ease of compliance, and reduce litigation. Personal income tax and simplification of taxation. So in the interim budget of 2019, our government exempted individuals having income up to 5 lakh of rupees from paying any income tax. Presently, an individual pays 20% on income between 5 lakh and 10 lakh and 30% on income between 10 lakh. That's the prevailing matrix. Further, currently the Income Tax Act is riddled with various exemptions and deductions which make compliance by the taxpayer and administration of Income Tax Act by the tax authorities a burdensome process. It is almost impossible for a taxpayer to comply with income tax law without taking the help from professionals. In order to provide significant relief to the individual taxpayers and to simplify the income tax law, I propose to bring a new simplified personal income tax regime wherein income tax rates will be significantly reduced for the individual taxpayers who forego certain deductions and exemptions. Under the new regime, sir, an individual shall be required to pay tax at a reduced rate of 10% for income between 5 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs against the prevailing 20%. So anyone who's earning between 5 to 7.5 lakhs, sir, today pays 20%. We are now reducing it in the new regime, which is devoid of exemptions, to 10% only. So 20% comes down to 10%. Sir, the next example. For income between 7.5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, I earlier said about 5 to 7.5, now I'm saying about 7.5 to 10 lakhs. So for income between 7.5 lakh to 10 lakh, he or she will pay at the reduced rate of 15% only against the current prevailing 20%. Sir, similarly, for the income between 10 lakhs to 12.5 lakhs, presently the tax is 30%. For income between 10 lakh to 12.5 lakh, the present prevailing rate is 30%. That is now being brought down to 20% only. Sir, the income between, I spoke about 10 to 12.5 lakhs. Now, 12.5 lakhs to 15 lakhs will be taxed At the moment, 12.5 to 15 lakhs is taxed at 30%. Now, those earning between 12.5 lakhs to 15 lakhs will be charged at 25% only. Sir, incomes above 15 lakhs will be continued at 30%, but no exemptions at all. Those earning up to 5 lakhs shall not pay any tax either in the old regime or in the new regime. So the proposed tax structure will provide significant relief to taxpayers and more so to those in the middle class. I just want to very clearly read out 0 to 2.5 lakhs exempt now, will be exempt in the new scheme also. 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs, 5% now will be 5% in the new tax rate. 5 to 7.5 lakhs, 20% now will become 10% in the new rate. 7.5 to 10 lakhs, 20% now will be 15% in the new. 10 to 12.5 lakhs, 30% now will now come to 20%. 12.5 to 15 lakhs, 30% now, 25% in the new rate. Above 15 continues at 30%. In the new tax regime, sir, substantial tax benefit will accrue to a taxpayer depending upon the exemptions and deductions claimed by him. For example, just to make it clear, for example, a person earning 15 lakh of rupees in a year and not availing any deductions whatsoever will pay 1,95,000 as compared to 2,73,000 that is paying now in the old regime. So his tax burden shall be reduced by 78,000 rupees. That will be the reduction in the tax that he has to otherwise pay. Then this is the example of somebody who earns 15 lakhs. He would still be a gainer. He would still be a gainer in the new regime even if he was taking deduction of 1.5 lakh under various sections of Chapter 6A of the Income Tax Act under the old regime. The new tax regime, sir, shall be optional for taxpayers, so there's no compulsion. Those who want to be in the old regime can continue to be in the old regime, in the old rates, in the whole sets of exemptions and deductions. But those who wish to come into the new are welcome to come into the new. An individual who is currently availing more deductions and exemptions under the Income Tax Act may choose to avail them and continue to pay the tax in the old regime. A new personal tax income tax rates will entail estimated revenue foregone of 40,000 crores per year. We have also initiated measures to pre-fill income tax return so that an individual who opts for the new regime would need no assistance from an expert to file his return and pay income tax. Sir, I will have to put this observation here. In order to simplify income tax system, I have reviewed all the exemptions and deductions which got incorporated in the income tax legislation over the past several decades. In fact, I have that list with me, sir. Somewhere. I have reviewed all the exemptions and deductions which got incorporated in the income tax legislation over the past several decades. It was surprising to know that currently more than 100 exemptions and deductions of different nature are provided in the Income Tax Act. No wonder the code is like this, the book. I have removed around 70 of them. I have removed around 70 of them in the new simplified regime. We will review and rationalize the remaining exemptions and deductions in the coming years, with a view to further simplifying the tax system and lowering tax rates. Sir, the Dividend Distribution Tax. Currently, companies are required to pay dividend distribution tax on the dividend paid to its shareholders at the rate of 15% plus applicable surcharge and cess in addition to the tax payable by the company on its profits. It has been argued that the system of levying DDT results in increase in tax burden for investors and especially those who are liable to pay tax less than the rate of DDT if the dividend income is included in their income. Further, non-availability of credit of DDT to most of the foreign investors in their home country results in reduction of rate of return on equity capital for them. In order to increase the attractiveness of the Indian equity market and to provide relief to a large class of investors, I propose to remove the DDT and adopt the classical system of dividend distribution tax, under which companies would not be required to pay DDT. The dividend shall be taxed only in the hands of the recipients at their applicable rates. Further, in order to remove the cascading effect, I also propose to allow deduction for the dividend received by holding company from its subsidiary. The removal of DDT will lead to estimated annual revenue foregone of 25,000 crores. This is another bold move, sir, which will further make India an attractive destination for investment. Sir, a concessional rate for electricity generation companies. In order to give boost to the manufacturing sector, new provisions were introduced in September 2019, offering a concessional corporate tax rate of 15% to the newly incorporated domestic companies in the manufacturing sector, which start manufacturing by March 31st, 2023, the corporate rate cut which happened in September. In order to attract investment in power sector, I propose to extend the concessional corporate tax rate cut down to 15% to new domestic companies engaged in the generation of electricity as well. So that corporate rate, which came down to 15% for the new manufacturing companies, will now be available even for power generation companies too. So tax concession for foreign investments. In order to incentivize the investment by foreign sovereign wealth funds of foreign governments in the priority sector, I propose to grant 100% tax exemption to their interest, dividend and capital gains income in respect of investment made in infrastructure and other notified sectors before 31st March 2024 with a minimum